Continuing with our same subtitle, Bleeding Kansas. So we saw the two groups setting up their own governments. Both of these governments are illegal because the people who are voting in Kansas right now for those governments don't actually belong in Kansas and are coming in from other states, whether north or south, to try to sway the vote in Kansas and get them to be either a free or a slave state. Meanwhile, the settlers of Kansas, the people who are actually living in Kansas, just want to stay out of this whole thing. Nevertheless, between those two groups, guerrilla warfare breaks out and violence breaks out in Kansas. In Lawrence, Kansas, the center of the anti-slavery government becomes the main battleground for the tension between the two groups as they're trying to win over the state. So there are a few figures that are fighting in Kansas at this time. One of them is named Reverend Henry Ward Beecher, and he sends boxes of Bibles. Really, beneath the Bibles, there are a whole lot of guns in the boxes. So he's sending these to Northerners and abolitionists in Kansas to help with their cause. And these are nicknamed Beecher's Bibles. So it just gives you an idea of some of the violence that's happening and the influence that some Northerners outside of the state have as well. But at the time, Kansas is still pretty sparsely populated. Between 1855 and 1856, the Border Ruffians, the pro-slavery forces, attack Lawrence several times. Now, the first time, they are not successful. They are surprised to find the town defended by enough abolitionists and free staters to repel their attack, even though they have 1,500 men. But on the second try, they do get into the town and they burn down a hotel. In this attack, one person dies, but he actually dies when a hotel sign falls on him, the hotel they're burning down. So, still, there are some deadly conflicts between the two. In 1856, there's the Battle of Osawatomie, which is when a pro-slavery army of about 400 to 600 attacks another figure we're going to talk about in a minute, John Brown, and another 40 men. And 4 wagon loads of pro-slavery men are killed. Now, John Brown, he comes along with his sons from the north, and they are violent abolitionists and lead bands of other violent abolitionists as well. At one point, John Brown kills 5 unarmed pro-slavery Kansas men, the Border Ruffians. So we can see that there's violence on both sides, abolitionists and the pro-slavery forces. But by 1856, there are over 200 dead in Bleeding Kansas. By this point, 1857, the abolitionists have pretty much taken control of Kansas. They have not totally driven out the Border Ruffians, but they are the main ones in control of Kansas. So in response, the Border Ruffians try to rig the elections, and they pass the Lecompton Constitution, seeking admittance into the Union as a slave state. Unfortunately for them, everyone knows that this is very illegal. And so Stephen Douglas and other Democrats actually join the Republicans for once and reject the request for entry. Now, Kansas tries to enter several different times as a state, but it's only in 1859 that the Kansas Constitution is finally passed, and Kansas enters as a free state in 1861. So in the end, Bleeding Kansas results in Kansas becoming a free state, despite the best efforts of the pro-slavery Border Ruffians crossing the border from Missouri. But this does leave a lot of a legacy behind, and people realize that this is what the Civil War is going to be like. This is in many ways kind of the first blood of the Civil War, a bit of a prelude to what the Civil War is going to be like and how gruesome and bloody it's going to be. And people on both sides are just horrified by the violence that results in Kansas.